meeting with Dan Holland that we attended. Meagan and I met there, and he's Pittsburgh's young preservationist, and he was speaking about the movement in Pittsburgh. And I've always painted images of buildings. Usually they've been on the east side of Buffalo, and the idea came to bring a whole bunch of people together to do these sites. And we got in touch with Preservation Ready Sites, who then shared a list of sites that they had designated to draw media attention to, and they thought we could help out with that. So that's really the catalyst between Meagan, myself, Preservation Ready Sites, and then a group called Niagara Frontier Plein Air Painters, they have about 50 members. So it was a really good place to start and say, hey, would you come out with us and work with us? So
I'd say it started when we met, and Sara had a group of painters that were trained painters, and then I'd say as we discussed what the goals of painting preservation were, we decided to open it up to more amateur painters, photographers, folks of all media and all skill level, and made it more of a community thing. So that's why it's a mix of artists, preservationists, and then the people in the neighborhood where we choose to set up and spend those Saturday mornings.
We didn't want to be exclusive in that way, that it was only for people who had training or skills or whatnot. We wanted, because preservation is a community effort, we wanted this to be a community effort as well. We get printmakers, photographers, textile artists, we get painters and collage artists. It's been wonderful. I want to see, actually we had a video artist out 2 weeks ago. Would love to still see a sculptor come out and do some sculpture work with us. But I think that's one of the only areas we're missing so far, people who have come out and joined us. It's a wide variety of artists. And then reception, the community are very, very receptive. And it's been wonderful to gather people's stories about locations. It's become a big component that we have to figure out how to incorporate into the lasting effort. Right now, we get all those wonderful stories. We have to figure out a way to share those along with the artwork. And then the arts community, we have our first big exhibit coming up at the Statler in October. So we'll see how we're received with the arts, like the larger arts community.
I'd say on Saturday mornings we're painting. Like, as the community comes out, it's really easy, and we're happy to be distracted to talk to people who come out of the houses across the street, or in this instance, the folks who come out of the church and are watching over our shoulder. And to us, it's part of this movement is that you are gathering in a space where other people are not spending the time to appreciate something. So I have to say the community appreciates it. Mostly they're curious about what we're doing when we're sitting on a lawn. And I was going to say something about how we've been received, not in the arts community. I think some people don't quite, not in a bad way, but don't quite get art and preservation together, in the sense that it doesn't have to be results-based, it can be process-based. So the act of us gathering and being somewhere in those couple hours when we're there is creating something. And then not only that, is we do have the artwork that can then carry over and be in a show, be in shows in other people's collections and shows. And people look to us to, why are they just painting the building? Why don't they paint the actual building? But all we see that as is, this is the awareness. So there's other groups, there's Buffalo's Young Preservationists, there's Preservation Ready Sites, there's Buffalo's Barn Raisers. We can all create a series, focus our attention all in one building at the same time and really get something done. So we see us as one piece of that. think that preservation in Buffalo, as it increases in visibility as a movement in and of itself, I think that a key point to the success of it is to incorporate into existing movements. And so I'd have to say the arts community is perhaps greater known than the preservation community, and we're kind of just getting to be even now. And I think this is the perfect collaboration for that.
Media awareness of specific preservation opportunities, preservation needs, and a very hands-on approach as to opposed to just writing about it for certain select communities or whatnot. It's a hands-on, on the ground, word of mouth movement as opposed to simply a writing about type of thing.
Right. There's an awareness, and then there's a physical presence, and then there's the result through the artwork. And the artwork, architecture adds art, and then we're describing and illustrating it through more art. And I think people who get it, get it, that is a great way to push a movement forward visually.
There's also something in a lot of people's mind that when you make art about something, then that something must also be important. So to make art about places that are being ignored, it brings importance to a larger community, people who aren't taking the time to even drive by these places, let alone sit around and just look for 3 or 4 hours or talk. And so it just brings an importance, we hope. A list of at least 6 to 10 more sites. For next year, we will again collaborate with Preservation Ready sites. We'll designate our own sites as well. Hopefully get even more community involvement.
I think that a lot of it, we were probably on our 5th or 6th art in. A couple people, came up to me and said, "Oh, you guys are painting this one this year?" I said, "Well, no, we don't have time because our schedule's been set, but let us know for 2012." And I think by planning ahead for 2012, we'll be able to get the community more involved, and we'll be able to get. So if we're in a certain neighborhood, we'll try to get that community association, and we have our community art project that'll still be traveling around, and that will be the push for 2012.
It's been a bit of a roller coaster, yes. We've actually had a hard time keeping up with it. It took off. We're very thankful for that because we think it's well worth it. But we have been really thrilled at attendance and interest, and even in some ways the controversy of when people get upset about it, it still brings attention to the locations that aren't receiving the attention. So, the success has been whirlwindish and wonderful.
Why preservation is important to me, and then there's also why preservation is important. Preservation is a recognized international concept that people care about where they live and their history and their connection to it. And specifically Buffalo has had a hard time. And I think that if you can learn to appreciate your neighborhood by looking at what you see, by looking at the architecture as art, and looking at it as an important place where other people have spent time and resources and love and energy in creating their lives in a place. It's not the end-all and be-all. I mean, people are exceptionally important to the story of a place, but the place itself, as you start to tear the places down, it doesn't make anything better. It just seems to make it tearing something down just seems to make it worse. And to me, preservation isn't necessarily house museums. It's not big architect sites. It's about neighborhoods maintaining themselves as neighborhoods and people enjoying where they live. And think it's a key component to having a happy life, basically. And then, yeah, I guess that's...
Well, I think you hit on the key words there. The neighborhood and community are all tied to the buildings. And as someone who has lived in suburbs and such, that those cookie cutter homes and everything, it's deadening in a way. And if you can take a place that has beautiful architecture and you can make that strong, it just, there's an individuality to each location and to each person. It just is a, I'm not going to like this,
Yeah.
but I think they're connected. The architecture and the communities are connected. Even if the communities that live here now are not the ones that built the architecture, their stories have taken place in these locations as well.
I think you're right, because they didn't build, neighborhoods and buildings are built on purpose and with as the neighborhoods changed, the people who live here now aren't the people that built the buildings, but every building is built on purpose and with a function. I mean, as simple as where your front door is, is it open to a public space or a private space? How does the church function? Which way to the windows? Which way is the building directed? There's all these details on the way that it's made, and then the details on the architecture of the beauty of it. And if you lose, even subconsciously, people who walk down a street with a building that doesn't look great, you can learn to appreciate the little pieces that do make it great, and then you preserve it, and even beyond restoring it, I think just appreciating it in the way that the art brings attention to the details of it, or the feel of it, or the colors of it, or the anything of it. That is where our art helps preservation, and that's, to me, where some of the overlap